is the Hot Zone. Engaging with the news in a whole new way, international war correspondent Chuck Holton brings insight into areas of crisis and lets you help those affected.
So this is a building in Stepanakert that got hit with a massive bomb. This was the administration building for the local power plant. And I mean, this is the kind of destruction that really nothing else causes. I've been through a couple of hurricanes this year and those cause a lot of destruction, but not like this. The force of these bombs is really just mind-bending. Check this out. I mean, it's obvious that the Azeris can hit what they're aiming at when they want to. Got to be careful walking around in here. This whole place is kind of unstable. Look at this. These offices are toast. Ooh. Okay, George. Amazing.
Hey.
It's a sound that strikes fear in all who hear it. For the people of the Nagorno-Karabach, it's a warning that death will soon rain from the sky once again. This tiny nation in the Caucasus is facing an existential threat, and they feel like nobody is paying attention. Wow.
UN High Commissioner for Human Rights Michelle Bachelet today expressed alarm at continuing indiscriminate attacks in populated areas in and around the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict zone in contravention of international humanitarian law, and she warned that they may amount to war crimes. Since the conflict reignited in September, with the terrible consequences we are now seeing, there have been repeated calls for the parties to take all feasible steps to avoid, or at the very least minimise, the loss of civilian life and damage to civilian infrastructure, including schools and hospitals, as well as to distinguish civilians from combatants and civilian objects from military objectives. Instead, homes have been destroyed, streets reduced to rubble, and people forced to flee or seek safety in basements. International humanitarian law cannot be clearer. Attacks carried out in violation of the principle of distinction or the principle of proportionality may amount to war crimes, and the parties to the conflict are obliged to effectively, promptly, thoroughly and impartially investigate such violations and to prosecute those alleged to have committed them. According to the Armenian Foreign Minister, some 90,000 ethnic Armenians from Nagorno-Karabakh have fled the current hostilities and are currently in Armenia. The High Commissioner urges all parties involved to depoliticise the issue of providing human rights and humanitarian access to all areas affected by the conflict, including by her teams to the relevant areas, so there can be effective monitoring of the human rights situation on the ground. We call once again on all parties to the conflict to uphold their obligations under international humanitarian law to protect civilians and civilian infrastructure, abiding by the principles of distinction, proportionality and precaution, and avoiding the use of explosive weapons with wide area effects in populated areas. As the loss of life continues and the suffering of civilians deepens, we appeal again for an immediate halt in the fighting and urge all parties to abide by a humanitarian ceasefire and engage in negotiations to find a peaceful and durable solution to this conflict that has wrought so much destruction in the region.
The people who live here are Armenians, who are Christian, and they've inhabited this region for millennia. But the territory is also claimed by their Muslim neighbors in Azerbaijan. And now, the Azeris are bent on driving the Armenians out and taking the land for themselves. And they're doing it with the help of a very powerful ally, Turkey.
The war in Artsakh is a war between the Republic of Artsakh, the nation of Armenia, and the nation of Azerbaijan. And it was started by the Azeris, who are trying to not only take territory that has been historically Armenian for thousands of years, but they don't want to stop with just the taking of territory. They want to wipe out the Armenian people. There has been credible evidence of war crimes and atrocities against the people of Artsakh. They're using prohibited weapons, such as cluster bombs. They're using phosphorus in the trees to root out, and all of these are illegal according to international laws. They've been caught shooting prisoners with their hands tied behind their back, shooting them in the head.
But the conflict isn't just about land. There's an ethnic and religious nexus as well.
Armenian is a historically Christian land, the first nation on earth to officially embrace Christianity, and that is something that the Turks and the Azeris don't want. The Armenian genocide was a precursor to what is happening right now. They're backed openly by the Turkish government, who on the one hand say there was never a genocide, and on the other hand will say, now we're coming to finish what we started. So this is not a conflict between two sides. This is a war between two aggressive nations that want to wipe Armenia from the face of the earth. Erdogan, who's president of Turkey, seeks a revived Ottoman Empire with Islam at its head.
All of your life destroyed in an instant. That's what the people that lived in this house had happened to them about 2 weeks ago when a bomb just randomly fell out of the sky and destroyed their life's work. And that's what the people of Stepanakert are living under. It's one of the most uncomfortable feelings in the world, not knowing if at any moment a bomb is going to fall out of the sky and destroy your life. So you would wonder why anybody would still be here. But there are a lot of people still here, and what they say is that their men are up on the front lines fighting, so how can they run away? 83-year-old Rosa was sleeping when she awakened to a huge explosion. Now, the house she's lived in for decades is a smoking crater, but miraculously, she survived. Both sides accuse each other of targeting civilians in this conflict, but these Armenians say here it's been a daily occurrence since September. In case you're tempted to think that these civilian areas that have been bombed by the Azeris are just bad targeting, these guys just can't hit what they're aiming at, here's proof that they can. This is the power substation here in Stepanakert that they blew up several weeks ago, and that's an actual strategic target. So when they're blowing up civilian areas, it just goes to show that they're just randomly lobbing bombs into this city that's full of tens of thousands of civilians. For this reason, those left here in the Nagorno-Karabakh spend their days in basements and cellars, praying for an end to the fighting. Nevertheless, they say they're willing to keep up the struggle to save their homeland from foreign aggressors.
The Hot Zone is produced by Amy Holton and Livefire Media. Copyright 2019.